If you've used the LightChaser Pro system before, had issues with the version 13 like I did, or are thinking about trying it for the first time with version 14, then this video's for you. I've moved away from my much loved case and I went over to the new cage in the hope that it solves some of the major frustrations I have. So let's get into
the fun stuff.
Fun stuff.
The new LightChaser Pro iPhone 14 Pro Max cage has got 2 cold shoe mounts, 8 quarter 20 threads, is compatible with the older version 13 filters, and is a solid aluminium construction. I'm a huge fan of the circular polarizing filters, and I've just been testing the variable ND and variable ND mist filters. The great news is the Bluetooth shutter release and the filters from the version 13 are all forward compatible. The grip needs an update to fit on the new cage. On the surface, you might expect a video essentially about a phone cage to be quite short, but there are loads of things to discuss and interesting discoveries I've made that will enhance the value of using this cage. I've added chapter markers if you want to skip ahead to another section of the video quickly. I have purchased all of the equipment shown at normal prices, and I'm not being paid by anyone for my comments. So I've gone to the LightChaser Pro iPhone 14 Pro Max cage as opposed to the standard sort of flexible case with the filters on it. You know, this has been a great case. These cases have been great with the handle. The only things I've found was that on the last edition, the handle would not lock on like it used to on the older cases. It used to lock on very securely, and the filters I found very easily popped off the case. So I used to like leaving the circular polarizer on the case all the time, and then it went to this, after it went from the 12 to the 13, the filter became a lot bigger and it stuck out quite a long way from the edge of the case. So it became inconvenient to use this case, one because of the size of the filter, two because it just popped off. So I was always worried that I was going to knock the filter off and lose it, and it did come off a number of times, but luckily I was able to find it. So as a result of that filter issue, mainly the filter issue, I didn't use the handle as much, but it was very, very good, but it just did clip off a little bit irritating. But mainly because this could fall off, I found it could fall off, and it stuck out a bit. I just sort of ended up just using the case like this, and then I ended up migrating over to the quad lock case just because I just found being able to lock that onto my bike or other things, even my desk. I could clip this onto the desk, onto a desk mount, and I found the quad lock just a bit more convenient than the Polar Pro. So this one I used mainly because of the filter. Once that filter sort of became out of the picture, I ended up moving over to the quad lock case, which I found really good, and I still use it as of now. Unfortunately, the quad lock case does not clip into the cage, so I can't just permanently leave the phone in here and go into the cage. It would have been great because the filter attachments are on the cage as opposed to the case, so I was thinking hopefully I could just leave it in there, pop it in, but it doesn't. So when I want to do photography, you really have to pull that quad lock out and get rid of it. So when I want to use the Polar Pro, you can just unclip the clips here, and the phone really easily clips into the case, and very simple for that to clip in, and no mucking around on that. And then it just clips into the cage, sort of giving a nice rubber sort of buffer around the edge of the cage, so it's, you know, it's nice and solid. The phone's locked in there, adds a fair bit of weight to it because it is a metal cage. But there's a lot of things you can do with the cage, making it very solid. Things where before with the case, even if you had the handle on it, and let's say that was locked onto a tripod or some other device, I just lost faith that that handle, if you're holding it there, that handle was able to clip off the case. In the old days it was really solid on the older versions. They did improve this. They sent me a new handle which is much more solid than the old one, but it still could clip off. And there are certain times when you just want to know that the phone is bolted on to whatever you're standing. So if you're bolting that onto something, and that's potentially a chance that that can come off, swing off, or you pushed off, let's say if it's in the wind or something, or just on something you've left it, it's not as balanced, and it's not 100% bolted on. You know it's not going to move if it's absolutely locked on. So I lost a little bit of faith in those. The cage, I'm pretty sure, once that phone's on there, and once you screw something onto here, it's not going anywhere. So the cage itself has got plenty of 1/4-20 areas where you can bolt things on. On the bottom one here, I've put on a Lunzi quick release plate, just because it's slimline, so it's out of the way, and that just enables me to clip this on and off to things really quickly without having to screw things in or muck around with it. So it makes it really simple. The kit came with a handle, so as opposed to the other handle which should have clipped on, which did have a problem. It wasn't fully secured. This one screws in, and you can use an Allen key to really lock that down, to screw that right in, and it's really locked in it, and it's got the RE pins to keep it located. And you'll notice that a number of these have got, or all of them have got RE pin locators, so you can put it in there and the thing won't twist because it's locked in that way. So that becomes really solid. The other good thing is that the Bluetooth remote switch or trigger switch can move over from, you can pull it off the old 13 and use it on the 14, so you don't have to get a new one of these, which is great. And the filters move over, so whereby before, every time we went from the iPhone 11 to the 12, the 12 to 13, you had to buy new filters, maybe a new Bluetooth, because the shape changed. So the handle is designed so you could unscrew it from here, from the side, and put it in the top to have a top handle. And effectively when you do that, one of the RE locator pins locks in and the other one sort of just sticks out the side a little bit. I don't think it's pretty hard to see there, but it does stick out. But it does mean you've got a top-down handle. However, I think I've got another solution. If you're just carrying just those bits, then you can, you can have it on the side. You can have it top down. You could have it the other way around. You could turn it so that the handle screws in this way, so you've got vertical, and a convenience of being able to fire the button here. So this is definitely a better system than the last one. However, I think I've got another idea that you could use there. I'm just a fan of being able to unclip things quickly, and I don't really like screwing things, even though that with the RE pins is a great system because it's locked in. I just like things with quick release. So to me, what I'm going to be doing is putting a small rig, and I could probably put a smaller one on here, but a small rig NATO plate, and that goes onto the top now, and I can just quickly clamp things into that, quickly grab them very easily, whether it's a light or something else. The other thing, if I was using this and putting it onto a tripod, and I had a thing where I needed it flat, if you wanted to use one of those bubble levels, you can slide them in, one of those see if I can get the camera there, those bubble levelers, but it just slides in and out very easily. It's in the way of there, so I did find quite a small little, and it's got rubber sides, and that can just slide straight into that cold shoe on the top there, and then you've got another level which is just completely out of the way. You can just sit there if you had that requirement. There's a number of times I want to shoot where I might be shooting like this. The top down rail handle could be handy, and it could be that you just that way I've got a, again, just trying to reutilize other pieces of equipment, I've got a small rig rail handle which can just clamp straight on, slide it onto there, and now I've got a top down handle already, which is just easier to get on and off. Don't have to muck around screwing things on. Makes it very easy to put that on really quickly, lock it on, and you've got the top down rail. However, the other thing I wanted to be able to do is if I want to do a shot where I want to put the camera down at sort of ground level, again, just utilising like an Insta360 pole from a camera. You could use any pole, but again, you could just drop that on there, straight onto that handle without having to screw it on, and then you've got a top-down handle which you can obviously extend out, and becomes a thing where you're not having to bend over when you're walking. You can put that down at ground level and walk along with it, and becomes very handy. And then when you don't want it, it comes straight down. You can leave that on, or very easy to get that handle off again, and you're back in business. The other interesting thing about this, with the NATO rail on the top, it also clips into. You can also put that onto the Lunzi Hummingbird mount and turn the handle just to a bottom handle, and straight away you've got two handles instead of the other option is you get another one of these handles here, clip it on here. But this way you've got, using existing equipment, instantly you've got a quick release handle that can go on the bottom. You could extend that out if you're, let's say if you're in a crowd or something like that, and you want to put that above the crowd, and instantly you've got another use for this pole. Quickly grabs on and off. You can have it like that, extend it up, or use it as a two-hander to keep the thing really stable. So lots of opportunities to use another piece of equipment. It's a great little thing about the NATO rail and the Ulanzi Hummingbird, that those two things are compatible, the plate and the rail. So another option you might want to consider, if you're doing a lot of the sort of top-down work where you've got the phone down near ground level, and we talked about the quick release with the NATO rail and the small rig quick release, and the only thing you want to be careful of or be mindful of is when you're walking, you want to have that pole fairly vertical, and to keep the camera at the right angle. So if you put the pole out in front of you, you end up sort of tilting up. So you want to keep that up and down fairly vertical to keep the point of view. So the other option is, if you want to have the camera out the front, use two hands on the pole maybe. You might want to use a ball head, and that way you can angle the camera pretty well at any direction you want. So look at the profile of the quick release plate of this Falcon F22, very thin, and that can just bolt onto the cage and just stay on there. And then when you need to use the cage, you can just slide that on, and straight away you've got a thing to be able to angle the pole, hold the pole out in front of your body as you walk, and you could angle that pole at whatever's comfortable for you. Even if you went to vertical, you can have the camera angle at whatever you want when the pole's extended out. So pole's sort of extended up here, and you could be up here, back here, further out in front of you, whatever suits. So having that versatility of being able to angle it is quite good. I've bolted the plate into the bottom one just to stay clear of the filter up the top, but you could go into the top as well. So that's another option which could be very handy. Now, separate from that, on this Falcon ball head, you've also actually got a cold shoe, which you could, if you needed light down there, you could also put that a light onto your system here, and you, again, using a little tilt head, you could have, there's the angle there with the light facing forward. So that's another option where you've got having the, and you can see here, the light is still out of the view of the lens here. So having it over here, it's still completely clear, but you could tilt that and have a light down there as well. But again, the whole idea of all of this is that it's just comes apart very easily, and so you can get back to, that can fit in your top pocket, that can fit in your pocket. This is a small pole, this is a small pole, all of this can fit. It's not a giant ball head. So the whole idea of these things is just to stay with I suppose as little equipment, lightweight of equipment as possible, but packing a punch of a very good image coming out of your camera. And just quickly, while we're talking about being portable, on my poles, I also put onto the bottom of them the Peak Design, those sort of quick release tabs. So it's very easy just to quickly detach or attach a strap. So I can basically carry my longer pole with me on an outing, whether it's this one or that extended, the extended selfie stick with the 360, that extended pole, and just put the little tabs on so they're completely out of the way when you're holding it. But it's very easy to attach those tabs, and then when you're not using the pole, that just slits over your shoulder. So you've just got the strap over your shoulder. If you can leave it on there if you want, or just quickly release, and off that goes. And then the strap just folds up into your pocket, and then you've got your pole to do what you want. But a lot of times I will just put that on and leave it on if I want to just free up my extra hands if I'm not using the pole. So it's just a really quick and simple way of attaching a strap and then having that pole completely hands-free, so you've both hands are back, able to concentrate on operating the camera. If you're finding this information helpful, please click the like button to help the channel. Thank you. One of the other things to note is on the cage, I've got a NATO rail on the top, a Ulanzi Hummingbird quick release plate on the bottom, and the Falcon quick release plate from the ball head on the side here. All of them are sort of small, slimline, in line with the cage and stay out of the way. The good thing about these, interesting thing about these three plates, totally different shape, is all of them are compatible with any of the NATO rail clamps. So they will clamp on to any of these three different types of mounting plates, meaning any clamp you've got will fit onto there. So you've got a lot of other different accessories. All of those will clamp onto any three of those positions, allowing you to put things on. So with the small rig handle I had before that we're using as a top-down handle, the good thing about that is it will also clip straight on to the Falcon quick release plate and become a side handle just on its own. So then you've got a double grip to make it like even more stable for filming. So instantly you've got another grip, and it easily comes off. You could clamp it onto any of those positions, but having the ability to swap equipment around from one spot to the other is just brilliant. Through having the compatibility with all these three totally different rails, the clamp will fit on all three. So one of the things that was, I suppose, irritating or disappointing about the older case was that I found that the filters, as you saw before, filters easily came off. With the cage, it's, the filter I find really does, it's much more solid. Before it was just, really just came off just with a quick finger touch. This way it's much more solid. And the other interesting thing is, with the cage, the filter does not stick way out from the cage edge anymore. So it's pretty well contained in the cage the borders of that cage without sort of sticking way up and out, which was an opportunity when you knocked it before, to knock it up and off. This way it's sort of much more on there. It feels solid. It's, you know, it's solidly on there. You can still easily twist from the edge of the cage, so it's not like your finger's way out here. It's right on the edge, and you can twist that round, rotate the polarizer filter or variable ND. So much more improved in the use of it and the way it's on there. So that's a great addition. Obviously, you've also got cold shoe mounts on the side where you could quickly attach a light. You know, that could go on the top here, can go on here. You could put arms on it, different types of arms can easily attach. Any of these arms will attach to multiple places on the thing if you needed those other accessories for a different microphone. You have access, even with the handle on, quite hard to see here, but you do have access to the mic jack or the power jack in the side here of the phone, so you can still have a cable coming in here, and you've got the grip. Where the irritating thing was before, if you put a cable in here into your phone and the grip was here before, you were gripping, getting in the way of that cord. Now you can have the cord come out and the grip is completely out of the way. So this was one of the big issues with if you had anything where you wanted to put a microphone in or anything else, corded microphone onto your phone, the handle got in the way. That's been solved. So this system now has solved a lot of issues. It's not perfect because there are a couple of things that I still wish that were a little bit different, but I wish it took my quad lock case, because normally I'm just walking around, that just clips onto my car, my bike, onto my desk, and it's it's been a great system, and it protects the lenses because it's got this sort of raised section here which does protect the lenses. If I'm not using the cage, and I'm just using if I used to use the cage, the lenses, I'll see if I can get that on the right angle, you can see that the lenses do stick up. So if I use that as an everyday case, put this down, the lenses are hitting the bench or the tabletop or whatever I'm putting it on. So in this case, this inner case does not protect the lenses, so to me it can't be used all the time just as a general use case. The good thing is it's really easy to pull out because it's so flexible, and I can quickly put that into my quad lock case, which again is not too difficult. Some of those cases are really hard to get off, but you can see here the lenses are protected. They're inside that raised section of the thing. So that's still my everyday case. However, the irritating thing with this is I've got no filters, so if I want to use a polarizer filter, anything like that, I don't have that option. So this to me is much better, much better than the previous iPhone 13 case. I haven't tried the case on the 14, but I'm imagining it's very similar to this sort of thing. This, I think, sorts it out because it is moving that handle away from the edge, which means you can plug in cables. So what I'm talking about, if we're talking about the cables, this is the old iPhone 13. Your phone's here, the cable's plugged into the phone. You've got the grip here and your microphone on top. And the minute you go to grab the handle, your hand hits the cable and it becomes really uncomfortable, plus you're bending the heck out of that cable. So it sort of, with the microphone, with the handle, it just wasn't really an option. So the only way you could do it was basically put a handle on the bottom and have it here. You couldn't use the handle, which sort of, and then I had this loss of faith that this was going to grip on properly and the whole thing might fall apart. So with the new system, you've got your phone in the case. Let's put that back in there quickly, lock that in, and you can plug the cable into your phone, into there, and if you want to, you could even put this onto the bottom of the handle, but you can see my hand is not grabbing this, bending the crap out of this cable. You can have the microphone down here, you can have it up here, you could have it here, you could have it here straight away, and no issues with that. Or you could put a wireless, the wireless version, same thing. You still have to plug the wireless one in, and you could put the Rode Wireless Go 2 in there. Either way, this has solved the cable issue. So if we move to this way, we've got the Rode Wireless Go 2, the receiver here instead of the microphone. You've got the cable thing sorted. I just hate cables, so it's still a little bit messy with the cable there. So the other thing I don't really like with screw-on attachments onto these cold shoes is, screw-on attachments just work their way loose, things just get out of the way. So I really don't like too many of those screw-on things. So, you could put the receiver over to the other side, which sort of just instantly, really, instead of having this mess of cables coming around here that's catching on things, it can go to the bottom there. You could move the cable around to the other side, so it's just sort of tucked away a little bit, so it's a little bit neater. And instead of screw-on things like lights and things like that, things like this little GoPro, which has just got a shoe built into it, that can just, as a light, that can just slide straight on, as opposed to it coming loose easily. Again, it's quicker to put on because it's just a little grabbing little light that just grabs straight onto there. And again, you could put that anywhere. You could put that there. You could put that on the top of the handle if you wanted to. So it's on there quite firmly. You could put a little shoe on the top, straight onto there. This handle here, I've noticed if you put a small rig shoe on the top, it's really, your finger's still out of the way. On the old one, your finger just came across to hit that where the shoe was. This one, it's just the way you grip the handle, it's just out of the way, so you can put a shoe on there, put that on. That could go on into there. Plenty of places for this little tiny light. So again, the whole idea is this being portable rather than carrying your big cameras around. This little light from GoPro is quite handy, and then you've got a much more sort of streamlined system. And then you've got things like PGY Tech Mantis Pod, which is an easy addition to make it stable, and the whole thing can just clip straight on with that quick release plate. So it just becomes a really easy, and again, you've got a second handle here, tripod built in, hang it on a fence, whatever you want, two hands. If you want to put this onto a different type of tripod, again, you can release from the Mantis Pod, or release this way. Just lots of options with these little two lots of quick releases, and it gives you options to put lots of poles. You can put a light, microphone, just a much easier system, quick to move. When you don't want things, you can just pull them off, put them in your pocket really quickly, and they're out of the way. So the system is a lot better than the 13. I'm finding straight away there's just a lot more practical use for it. So with the this is with the shoe on the top. So putting the little small rig shoe straight to the top of the handle. One thing when you're putting that on, small rig's got two size sort of screws, and you want to make sure that you're getting the small one, the short one, sort of very deep thing. So make sure you're using the small one. If you're using this one, you won't be able to tighten it down a bit, tighten it fully down. But having that shoe on there, you could put a light or your wireless go-to or a microphone up here. So that's another simple thing. Or another option on the top here is, again, to get one of these quick release, the NATO rail releases, and you could put anything on there. So you just move the wireless go down to the bottom. I've moved that other shoe down to here, so you could put it there if you wanted to. So that could go anywhere onto the bottom of the handle. But when you've got one of these quick release NATO rails, you could just quickly put on a, like a light cube. In this case, it's the Rode one. I've got that LightChaser, I think it's called. That can go on there. But put a little NATO rail on, and instantly you've got a light on there. You can lock it on. You've got the light quickly bolted onto the top from the front. And if you don't want to use it, just quickly, it just literally just comes straight off. You just undo the lock. Being that it's solid, because it's all bolted in, you could go up to something like the Aperture MC. Again, that'll just clip straight on, and you've got yourself a much bigger light on the top here. Again, solid. It's not going to fall around. You can lock it on, and it's solid enough to even take the, I think I forgot what this one's called. This is the metal aperture one. So it's again, it's locked on. It's solid. We're not. I hate things that move or work their way loose. So it's much more powerful light on the top, and look how thin that whole system is. So the only other sort of negatives so far that I can find is, one, obviously it's heavier. It's much heavier. It'll still fit in your pocket. I can put that into my top pocket, not a problem. So a little bit heavier, but not a big deal. Still can't put on, if you had the Video Mic ME, which is the one that just clips straight onto the phone. You still can't use this microphone because the cage gets in the way. So it'd be, slimline thing. Be great to be able to just have the advantage of having a filter with simplicity and a mic banged in here with no cables. I love the idea of having no cables. So that mic is very attractive, but you can't use it with any of the cases. I've got this other Polar Pro thing I'd use more on a stand for a monitor, to put a monitor on, clipping onto a tripod like a video monitor. But again, you can repurpose that. It's the same build, even looks the same because it's got the gold attachments. But that thing that was built for me to put thing, that becomes another handle. So it can bolt onto there as another handle, and the good thing is it can actually go on at different directions too. So it doesn't have the RE locking plates, but because this one is locked in, you can put this in at slightly different angles, which is good for your hands. So just so many extra things. I love being able to repurpose other things to so that becomes a second handle. So I really didn't need to buy. I couldn't see myself using another handle. So you can now have good audio with your phone again, with the handles and the filter. So you're back to having all of the best things you want without the hassle. Be great if you could put that on there, that little microphone. If you could put that in there, that would be fantastic. Then there's no cables whatsoever. Failing that, it would be a matter of getting iPhone to move their jack down to the bottom here so it's out of the way. Then it could be used quite easily with this. But if you want good sound with this, that was a problem because it was just right in the way with that handle and the cables. So overall, excellent, great job. So the other thing, that if you're worried about the cable flopping around and getting a bit messy, you could also get one of these little small rig cable management clips, which can just bolt straight onto the bottom here and put the cable in, tighten it through there, and just tighten her on. Oops, put it the right way around would be helpful. Tighten that up, squeeze it in, give it a tighten, and that cable is then nicely tucked away and held in position so it's not flopping around. So just all these things, there's a couple of different versions. If you had two cables, you could use one with the two things. So all you need is one screw, two cables, or this one's the single version. So that just makes that cable management even better. So that's what it is there. Little thing, one small rig. By the way, this little multi-tool with the screw, and then you've got all of the different tools, is quite a handy little thing to have on hand when you're trying to do things up. Use this all the time, but that's just a way of managing your cables, whether it's one or two or more. And again, you can do that straight onto the cage. So mentioning Allen keys, if I've got to mention, there's actually an Allen key built right into the bottom of the handle here, which you can easily just flick with your finger, and you've got an Allen key to tighten everything up around the unit and just drop straight back into the handle, and it is magnetized in position so it just doesn't fall out. So really handy at your fingertips, easy to get, secure. You could also, the fact that the whole unit is so solid now, you could get that and put that into one of those magnet bases to magnetize your phone onto or something, and it's super solid. So unlike the old system where you had the handle over here on the side and you put it here and it might be a bit lopsided, obviously you could, if you wanted to, push that handle into the center and move it, make it more central. But again, we're not talking about as solid of a unit, and it can come out. Look, I'm just pulling it off with my fingers. This is bolted on. Your phone is not going anywhere with that. Or you could use obviously other things like the three-footed monster, and if you wanted even more stability, you get a bigger magnet base and bolt it straight onto there, and it's again super solid, just not going anywhere. The cage just gives you so much more capability than this. The only downside being a little bit heavier, but all the pluses make this, to me, a much better option than the cage is better than the case. So just in case you missed it before, when I had the camera on the pole, this Bluetooth shutter release doesn't have to be right next to the camera and attached to the camera. Or the handle doesn't need to be on the camera to operate it. You can still take pictures with it when the remote or the button is further away from the camera. That means you can use like a clamp, and again we've got another little small rig clamp here, and because it's got RE locking or locator holes, you can lock that handle onto the clamp so it won't twist. So it's all locked in nicely, and then that clamp can clamp on down to the other end of the pole, and you can remotely control the camera through the shutter switch down at the end of the pole. So this is fully extended and you have full control. Even on the long poles you still have enough signal to control the camera with the shutter button down here. So that's it for this video. However, I have posted a companion video covering the LightChaser Pro 11, 12, 13 and 14, comparing them and things that happen over time. And I will be posting another video comparing the LightChaser Pro to the ShiftCam Pro grip, the quad lock system, and also some gimbals. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those videos and more fun stuff.
The fun stuff.
Fun stuff.